Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a book review. Let me just say that I can't promise you that this video is going to be very coherent or professional because I mostly just want to talk about how much I am in love with this series, which I discovered last week, and I hate myself a little bit for not reading it sooner. Also, I have hair. I filmed a beauty video right before this. I'm not sure how often it's gonna happen, but I was getting ready to film for this video today and I decided to film it, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, to the video at hand here. The book I want to talk with you guys about is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I read this last week. I loved it so much, and I have actually had this book in my possession for over a year. I bought it early last year and I only read it last week because I was sick. I picked this up and I read all 3 books in 3 days. I'm still a little sick too, by the way. That's why my voice is a little, it's a little sexy. So I was reading this, and as I was reading this, I would start getting a headache because I really was like really sick. So I would put it down for a little bit, like take a chug of my Tylenol, and then when my headache started going down again, I would pick it up again and I would read it. And that's how my sick days went. Right after finishing this, I read Scarlet the next day, and then I finished Scarlet around like 10 p.m. at night, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm reading this. So I read Cress, and I pulled an all-nighter to finish Cress, and it's such a good series. I hate myself for not reading it sooner. In an effort to try to keep this somehow informative. If you have not heard about this series, which I would find that very hard to believe because I feel like I am the last person on earth to read this. So this is a retelling of Cinderella, and it takes place in the future. Cinder, the main character, our main protagonist, is a cyborg. She is part human, part machine, and plus, a huge plus, she is not white. I'm not saying that like it's horrible to be white or anything, but we can all agree that there is not enough ethnic characters in young adult literature, especially fantasy. What I love about this series is that it does have ethnic characters. Cinder is Asian predominantly. This world is a little bit post-apocalyptic in a sense. Like a lot of the countries that we are familiar with now don't really exist the same way that they did. It's kind of like her kingdom, which is where she lives, like in New Beijing. It would be Asia, I guess. It would be what is considered Asia. So she is not particularly like, oh, she's Chinese, or oh, she's Korean, or oh, she's Indonesian or something. She's kind of a mix of everything. I don't know how to explain it. I think if you read it, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So it's not so much, it's kind of like, it's not countries, but it's kind of, the world is divided into sections, almost kind of like continents. I don't think I'm doing a very good job at explaining this, but you know what I mean, right? It would have been nice to see a Latina in there, I'm not gonna lie. But I do understand that this story is kind of taking place for the most part like in the other side of the world, and North America, South America aren't really too involved, so I guess I can see why Latinos aren't represented in this situation as much. But I still really appreciate the fact that Cinder is Asian. Winter, which is the 4th and final book in this series, is actually black. And there are a few, like I don't know, there's just so many great things about these characters that are not usually represented in YA, and they are still so badass. Like one of the main characters, wait, is this a spoiler? It kinda, minor spoiler alert, I'm not gonna tell you guys who, but one of the characters actually goes blind temporarily. So that's really nice to see, a disabled character. It's hinted at that he's going to regain his sight eventually. It's just nice to see some variety in characters and characterizations. And by the way, also, Scarlet, which is the 2nd book, she is described as having, like voluptuous figure, and that's, I mean, I'm all for that. So I really just, I don't know, I feel like I'm not doing a good job at explaining this because my love for this is just so great that I can't form any coherent sentences, but let's just say that this has a great variety of characters that are not just predominantly white. There is some ethnic variety in this. There is a lot of like physical variety, I guess. All the characters are not just like really thin. It's nice to read about characters that actually look like people around me, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, they're not like these idealized Hollywood type characters. They are almost everyday people with, you know, cyborg parts. What I also love about this is just the world. It is such a complex world. I feel like if you are not someone who reads science fiction and for some reason you have been put off from this because of that, don't let it bother you whatsoever. I would say this is more of a fantasy with sci-fi elements because of the cyborg thing, because there's people who live on the moon and it is set very much in the future, so it does have certain sci-fi elements, but you don't have to worry about like understanding any jargon. So if you are someone who is not very much into sci-fi, I feel like you still would like this very much. For me, I do read a bit of sci-fi, but I don't read a lot of it. I'm not super familiar with a lot of sci-fi. I found this completely fine. The retelling aspects of these fairy tales are so ingenious. Obviously, when you're reading it, you do understand and you recognize the fairy tales that we are all familiar with. But it's just so innovative how like the details are changed and different aspects that are brought into the fairy tales, and I feel like for some of them, like, it's nice to see different fairy tales kind of intertwine into one story. And the characters, each book introduces a new set of characters, and each set of characters you just fall in love with. They're just very well characterized. Each one of them has their own distinctive personality, and it's just, I absolutely love it. I love this book so much, guys. If you have not read it, please read it. The series is just great. I am dying to get my hands on Fairest. I already kind of reached my book buying limit for the month, even though I wasn't supposed to buy any. I did buy a couple of books and I don't want to buy any more for this month, so Fairest is gonna have to wait until next month. But I'm just, oh, I want to read it so much. I'm really sorry if this wasn't very coherent, and I just really wanted to share some of my thoughts with you guys. If you have not read this series or this book, like, at least read Cinder. It is such a good book. This book, by the way, is always available on the book outlet for around $3 to $4. So I'll leave that down in the bottom bar for you guys to check out. My voice is dying. Like I said, I'm sorry if this wasn't super coherent, but I really just wanted to get my thoughts, some of my thoughts out there. I wanted you guys to know that I really love this series. It is now officially one of my favorite series, along with Throne of Glass, Snow Like Ashes. I know it's the first book in the series, but I have hopes that Sarah's not gonna let me down with the next one, so I'm including that in my favorites as well. And then this, I think, is my favorite. Not necessarily Harry Potter, because for Harry Potter, I feel like my love for Harry Potter is kind of in a league of its own, that nothing I ever read in my life will ever reach that level. So my love for that's like on a separate thing. But then the bottom tier, which is the kind of like the more realistic love level, this is one of my official favorites now. So that was it for my very rambly, incoherent book review slash discussion on the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. Let me know what you guys think. Also, by the way, spoilery things are welcome in the comments. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts are on the series if you have read the series. However, please mark spoiler at the top of your comment, and then like hit enter a couple of times so that like you don't end up spoiling anyone else. You guys know how I feel about spoilers. I hate being spoiled online. So if you have any spoilery comments to discuss, please leave them down in the comments, but put spoiler in capital letters at the top, hit enter like 5 or 6 times, and then put whatever spoilery comment you have. So that way you know, we don't accidentally spoil people. But yeah, please let me know what you guys' thoughts on this series are, and if you are as excited as I am now for winter, which is set to come out late this year. All the books that I love and that I'm dying to get are all coming out like in the fall and winter, which is not okay with me. Except for a few. Actually, A Court of Thorns and Roses is coming out in May. I already pre-ordered it. It's been pre-ordered for months, so I'm dying to get my hands on that. That is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow me on all of my social media. I usually never say this, but I am on like a whole bunch of other social media platforms, and I'm trying to be good at it, like I mentioned in my last video. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys liked it, and I will see you next time. Bye. This is going to be the BookTube secrets tag. Basically, in this tag you just spill out your secrets that are related to BookTube